Martial law and the National Guard being called in. I'll give you the details of it in this video. Also, the Fed and two major rulings start today. I'll give you the details on it all in this video. That's right. Let's jump right in. Thanks so much for liking these videos. Here's the details. Let's start right now. Okay, if you see my previous video about nearly 1,000 National Guard troops being sent into New York City, this is a serious concern, and how this could be happening in other states for stop and search on Big Apple's train network as Eric Adams finally cracks down on the city's violent repeat criminals. Well, guess what? This is now happening in other states. Few details on Missouri's National Guard prep for a Texas border mission. And the question here is, why is the National Guard being called in on multiple different states? Yeah. Governor Parsons sending Missouri National Guard Highway Patrol to aid Texas border operations. You can see it directly here from the Kansas City Star. And we know that migrants are or illegal migrants, as many would say, are a problem in many different states, as there's millions of them literally flooding in. And, well, you can see here that Missouri House okays $2.2 million to support Missouri National Guard state troopers at the border. The Missouri House of Representatives passed a bill Thursday to provide $2.2 million to fund Republican Governor Mike Parsons' order sending personnel to the U.S. borders. He requested the funds back in the end of February 21st, when he signed an executive order to send 200 members of the Missouri National Guard and 22 Missouri State Highway Patrols to Texas to send Operation Lone Star. The effort is being executed by Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott. So you can see it's a joint state operation. Quote, Missouri's approval of $2.2 million in emergency fund underscores our state's proactive approach to safeguarding our borders and supporting our law enforcement personnel. Now, Democrats have not been happy about this, and in many different instances, you can see here, Texas Democrats call on Biden to seize control of the Texas National Guard. Wow. Democrat Representative Joaquin Castro from Texas is calling on President Biden to take control of the Texas National Guard if the state defies a Supreme Court ruling that they allow the U.S. Border Patrol officers to take down the border barriers, which is what happened. Quote, Governor Greg Abbott is using the Texas National Guard to obstruct and create chaos at the border. If Abbott is defying the Supreme Court ruling, POTUS, President of the United States, needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard now, Castro wrote in a post on X, the platform previously known as Twitter. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has been engaged in a months-long feud with Biden administration over the situation at the border. Abbott has maintained that Biden is not doing enough to address the border security, while Biden administration has said that Texas does not have the authority to erect razor wire barriers. So as you can see, the problem is that Biden has basically let in millions of migrants, a lot of them illegally, through the borders, not only the southern border, but the northern border as well. And now Democrats are calling on him to enact martial law and just take over the National Guard and who knows what else, as they've basically let a lot of this happen. Now they want to enact martial law. Wow. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, but this is wild. Was this a part of their plan all along? This is wild. And you have a similar situation in New York with them calling in the National Guard in New York City and New York. It makes you kind of wonder here what is going on with them calling in the troops and the National Guard. It does seem suspicious at best. Also here today, we have two major rulings from the feds and the government that are going to take effect here. The first one is a major independent contractor rule that is going to affect millions of Americans nationwide here. A final rule that is intended to encourage reclassification of certain independent contractors as employees, which will force employers to make sure that they're paying at least minimum wage to employees and make them classified so that they're not independent contractors. And this will affect companies like Uber and Lyft and many other companies. The main question that the government asks is, can these independent contractors, do they really have a business without the company? Do they really have their own business? And if you think about the question like Uber and Lyft, can these independent contractors survive? Do they have their own business without Uber and Lyft? And in that case, well, I mean, probably not. Can these contractors, actually do the business without Uber and Lyft? And in that case, it's probably not. This also would include overtime as well, overtime protection if they work more than, the 40 hours. But the thing here that kind of comes into play is that remember that the federal wages is only, the federal minimum wage is only $7.25. So keep that in mind. It hasn't been raised since 2008. Yeah, so that's kind of the problem. Is we know that nobody really pays $7.25 an hour across the United States, but in this kind of case, that is where that they need to kind of raise that stuff because those things do factor in with things like this. Another thing that starts today is a major thing that's happening here today. The last two times it went into effect, it crashed the economy and the markets, the stock markets, and I actually did a major video on it. It has almost 200,000 people that watched it already, and I'll link you to that video here in a moment because it's a major, major thing. Click here to watch that video I was just telling you about that goes into effect today. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video.